Tonight is a very special night. To prove how special it is, Loren and I were talking outside, and this is the biggest crowd we've ever had for a Harlem Speaks seminar. And apparently there's a reason for that. Because if I must say so myself, most of us in here know or should know that Gloria Lynne has been in the backbone of our community and certainly the musical community for a very, very long time. And I hope this doesn't embarrass her too much, but when I was 5 years old, I used to love to go through my grandparents' albums, and they had Gloria Lynne's album After Hours. And what I remember more than anything else to this very day, actually, about that album was her face. I said, boy, this woman's more gorgeous than any other. I'm not going to call out any names, but out of all of the other great jazz vocalists, just on a very, just on a physical level. My 5-year-old hormones, I suppose, were actually awakened a little bit. I thought this woman was just so absolutely gorgeous and sexy, and she still is like that. Now, once I put the album on, that just made it even worse, or better, whichever way you want to look at it. And we are so very, very, very fortunate to have the great, great Gloria Lynne. Please give her a big round of applause. Tonight we will hear her story. Please.
Watch the wire.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
right
yes.
here, man.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So comfortable.
The mic on a stand, you can hold it when you're talking, whichever you prefer. Would you rather hold it?
I can hold it, yeah. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Thank you for joining
And I
us.
want to thank everybody for coming. I didn't even know this was here, as I said when I walked in the door. But it's a good thing, so that's why I'm here.
We give you a little bit more volume there.
Yeah, I talk soft.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
You talk softly, but you touch us deeply.
Thank you.
Now, if you don't mind me asking, you're a home girl. You're from right here.
Yeah, born and raised in Harlem Hospital.
Right on.
Yes.
If you don't mind, please just kind of kick us off and tell us part one of your story. We know I know you're Sagittarius, right?
Yes, I am.
Right on.
I'm a cusp Sagittarian.
Okay.
So that means I'm Scorp Sag.
Right on. I'm a Gemini. I hope you don't mind.
No, I am. You're a twin. You're a twin, right? Okay, what do you want to know?
Well, the very beginning. How did you discover your talent? When was the first time you remember opening your mouth and hearing that beautiful sound?
Ever since I was born, practically, when I first started talking.
Yeah.
Yes. My mom used to sing around the house because she sang a lot of gospel songs.
Right.
Somehow or another that I said this in an interview one time and they took it and said that my mother was a gospel singer.
Mm-hmm.
She was not. She just could sing.
Right.
There are a lot of ladies, I'm sure, like that. But we used to sing together. She used to teach me songs. She taught me For All We Know. I recorded that in my first string album. A lot of songs my mother was responsible for me recording in the early days. So that's my beginning. The talent itself, we all know is a gift. If it was not, everybody could do it.
This is true.
And I'm still in awe of the fact that I'm able to do it even up till today. This is 2005. My first hit record was in 1960.
Wow.
Yeah, or maybe 1959. Yeah. I recorded June 9th because I wanted to go to Fordham University. Because I wanted to be a doctor or a nurse. I just loved medicine, the field of medicine, because I was so sick as a child.
Really?
Growing up. I was premature baby, and I always had something wrong with me.
Oh,
So
really?
I said if I could ever get on my feet and get strength, I'd be a nurse or a doctor so I could heal people. That didn't work out because June Night came out and it just went everywhere.
Hit, right.
It went everywhere, and I never got a chance to go back.
So it was your intention not to become a famous,
Didn't know anything
vocalist.
about it. I know that these people, I was doing demonstration work. If you know what that means that I was the singer that maybe Sarah would hear a demo and she,
Okay.
because I had a good voice, maybe Dinah would like a song that I would do a
Right.
demo on. And that was the work that I was doing.
Wow.
And this company came in one day and they discovered my voice and they said, well, we'd like for her to do an album. I really didn't know what an album was.
Now, that was Everest?
The Everest,
Yeah,
yes. And I did the album, went on about my affairs.
Yeah,
And next thing I know, they told me, so you have a hit record. So I said, well, what is that? They said, June Night. It's all over the world. I said, you're kidding me. I couldn't believe it.
Now, I can imagine you were probably the most popular Everest artist. Who were some of the other artists who were on Everest at that time?
Well, the reason there's an E on my name is because they had Gloria Lynne. And I remember Raymond Scott saying one day, so we can't have two L-Y-N-N's on this label. So they said, well, put an E on Gloria's name.
Wow,
Yeah,
no
because
kidding.
she was on the label at the same time.
Wow. Now, if you wouldn't mind, like before you recorded June Night, you were studying pretty much, medicine and things like that, like through high school and things like that, or was that your main focus?
That was my intention.
Yeah.
I had academic
Right.
studies. But before that, my mother used to put me in all these different contests, and because she would make me sing for her friends, and
Sure.
she thought I had a good voice.
Yeah.
And she was working at a place called Carnegie Hall Theater,
Okay.
right in the same block where Carnegie Hall is on 57th Street. And there was a lot of professors used to come through there. And so one day she just boldly walked up to one of them and she said, my daughter can sing. I wish you'd listen to her. And he took me on. It cost my mother $7 a week, which was enormous in those days and
Sure.
time. But I took as much study as I could for the small length of time that I took it.
Right.
And it has helped me all these years. It
Yeah.
has brought me through musically all these years. I would tell anybody who's going to aspire to sing, take some type of lesson, take
Sure.
some type of something that can lead you and keep you
Right.
sustained.
Right. Now, you said you were doing a session. You were a demo vocalist.
Yes.
Now, did that happen? I mean, how exactly did somebody from 802 approach you and hear you, or how did that happen? You just started doing session work.
I really don't know. I know that Danny Small's my coach. He was doing demo work. And he used to tell them, he said, well, Gloria can sing, bring her in, and ask her, would she do a demo for Dinah Washington, or Sarah Vaughan, or Carmen McRae, any of the girls who were out there when I came along.
Yeah.
And I would go down and do it. They paid you $5 a side. That was money.
Yeah.
You know how money is.
How often were you doing that? Like once a week or once a month?
I had a good thing on it. I was doing it every day.
Wow. Right on. So it's safe to assume that a lot of the hits that we hear, like Dinah Washington sang or Sarah, I'm sure they heard your voice singing first.
Well, yeah, because they would present it to them.
Yeah. Now, do you remember any songs specifically that were given to someone else who became hits for them?
No, not really. I really can't truthfully sit here and say I can remember.
Yeah.
But I know I did a lot of demos. But not only them, a lot of people that wanted to hear a vocal with a lyric.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. So June Night comes out and it's a hit. Then what? Did you have to put a band together and go on the road? And
Yeah, immediately. Yes.
who was your first band?
Let me see. I had a trio. No, my first band was, I went to Storyville in Boston.
Sure.
It was my first job. And they had a band there. And I worked with that band.
Yeah. That was George Weems' place,
Yes.
right? Yeah. If we could back up just a little bit, you won amateur night, correct, at the Apollo? Now, can you share that with us, the feeling of that? You remember what you sang and all that stuff?
I sang Don't Take Your Love From Me, which later on I recorded it.
Yeah.
The prize was $15, which was first prize. I hadn't told my mom that I was going on, and of course somebody told her that,
Uh-oh.
because it was broadcast,
Ah,
and everybody on 134th Street knew my voice, knew me,
right.
and so they told my mother. By the time I got off and got my little prize, she was there. She hit me so hard until I lost. I lost $5 of the $15 that I won. And I said, Ma, see, I lost my $5. She said, come on here, girl. She really didn't agree with it because I hadn't told her that I was going on. In fact, I told nobody.
Yeah,
I didn't tell some of my closest friends.
Yeah.
I just went on and took a chance.
yeah. So it had nothing to do with like the secular versus gospel or anything like that. She just the whole.
Because I didn't tell her.
You didn't tell her,
Yes.
yeah. Oh boy. Well, I mean, certainly through all your success, I'm sure she forgave you.
Yeah, later on she kind of agreed with it, but not that night. No.
Wow. So by the time you won the amateur night, was that during the time you were doing all of the demo work, or was that okay?
Yes.
So it was all around the same
Yes.
time. Now, if you wouldn't mind, can you take us through some of the Everest years? Because I know another album of yours that I was always fascinated by was Live at Leo's Casino in Cleveland. The one had Bobby Timmons and Grady Tate, who's actually going to be here in a couple of weeks. And now I know Don King was a big man in Cleveland during that time.
Yes, he was.
Did you have any contact with him
No,
during
I
that time? I won't read into that. But
It
if
was
you,
like, hi, how are you? And
yeah, right, and that was it. Now, if you wouldn't mind, just kind of take us through some of those great albums you did on Everest, and some of the other bands you put together.
well, I was with the Earl May Trio for 10 years.
Sure,
Herman Foster, Grisella Oliphant, and Earl May.
sure.
We traveled all over the United States of America
Yeah,
doing music, which was a phenomenal thing because it was only 4 of us. I have always been amazed by the fact that I've gone into the studio and worked with 16 pieces, 20 pieces, 40 pieces
Right.
in personnel. And when I was seen, due to the fact that it's jazz, I was seen with a quartet maybe, tops.
right.
Every time I get a chance, I like to thank my followers, people who have supported me musically
Yeah.
down through the years, for accepting this music that way.
Yeah,
I've always been kind of leery when I came out, and so songs like Love I Found You, which had a whole
sure.
string section to it, or even I Wish You Love, that was accepted.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that was accepted
Very
on
much so.
on a much lower musical level, let's put it
Right.
like that.
Yeah,
In the meantime, in the background, I was always fighting to give the audience what they really deserve. I mean, if they hear this at home,
right.
why not? But jazz never could
Yeah.
afford it or never would try to afford it.
Right, right. Well, were you? I mean, "I Wish You Love" was probably, that was the hit. So, were you as surprised with that one as you were with your first hit, or not? Not really.
Yeah, I was surprised about I Wish You Love, yes.
Yeah.
The most surprising thing about I Wish You Love was the hits that I had before that. Like I'm Glad There's You, He Needs Me, June Night.
June night, right?
Several of them I can mention. They were all jazz hits. When I got I Wish You Love, they called that a pop hit.
Right.
So then I became a pop jazz artist. Which to today I don't know what that means.
Yeah. So were you able, at that point, had you moved into bigger venues and started playing, bigger halls and things like that? Or did you ever perform live with like one of the big orchestras, like on the recording?
No.
Okay, so they never really quite gave you the recognition you deserve for that.
Well, it's not about recognition. It's about format. Well, I'm glad to see that a lot of people today that are recording, they have their full orchestration. If they go into the studio and they have 16 in personnel, that's the way you see them.
Yeah.
My one thing about it is I've been very fortunate because my audiences have accepted me
Yeah.
that way.
Right.
I mean, they didn't care whether I didn't have all the strings and all the hoopla and all the stuff that they heard at home, which drew them to come out to
Yeah.
see my performances. And then here I stand with 3 or 4 people, and we made it. You know,
I
the
think
Earl May
that-
Trio supported me. I don't think there was a better pianist in the world than Herman Foster.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, he really supported me. That whole group supported me.
Yeah.
And we went across the country like that, singing songs that basically the charts were just laying.
Right. Well, I think that's testament to your the beauty in your voice and the honesty of your artistry. Now, one thing I've always loved hearing a lot of vocalists talk about are the arrangers that you had a chance to work with. You know, I hear people talk about Marty Page, and who
Yes.
I know wrote for you.
Yes,
Quincy Jones.
yes.
Who were some of the other arrangers that you like really were your favorites?
Well, you just call them. The rest of them, I could say that after a while, you get to the point where you say, I want it this way. I want to hear this
Right.
in the back of me. I want to hear this. When you're first starting, like when I first started with Everest, Melba Liston did my first string date.
Mm.
And of course, Quincy helped her.
Right.
After that, when I would go into the studio, I would have a full-blown idea of what I wanted.
Right.
So most of the arrangements that you hear are just skeletons of what I would put the
Well,
skeleton, they put
right.
the meat on it.
Right. Amen to that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know there's always been a certain, you know, you look in the books and things like that, and after your Everest period, tell us what happened after that. What was going on in your career after after that, after those
After
years?
Everest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I signed with Mercury,
Mm-hmm.
and I was with Mercury for 7 years.
Uh-huh.
Which is a great catalog. I'm very
Sure.
proud of that, as much as I'm proud of the Everest
sure.
catalog. And I think that's going to be re-released and put on CDs
Oh, right
very
on.
shortly. Yes.
Right on. Now, was Johnny Mathis still on Mercury at that time, or had he
Yes.
gone to Columbia by then?
When I was on Mercury, Dinah was on Mercury,
Right.
Johnny Mathis, Quincy, of course. He
Right,
was the
right.
vice president.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. And so you spent 7 years on
With
Mercury?
yes.
Wow. And I'm sure you got to continue to work with a lot of great arrangers and producers through that period. Were basically the same ones you had a chance to work with on Everest?
Well, somewhat. I worked with Leroy Holmes, Hal Mooney,
Al Mooney.
Don Cohen, who did Watermelon Man and
Right.
those things for me. Then we went to Memphis and worked with the Memphis guys down in Memphis,
Sure.
which was a true different experience for me.
Completely different
We
thing.
really hooped and hollered. It's like when you walk into Memphis, they're waiting for you. I mean,
Exactly.
They have so much excitement with their
Yeah.
music.
Now, now after the Mercury period, now what was the song of yours that was in the movie Seven? Speaking of Happiness,
Yes.
correct, right?
Yes.
Now, forgive me, I can't quite remember which album that was from, but
It wasn't.
That was just a single, huh?
Speaking of happiness, I did that on a session, and they took it to Europe and released it. It was never released here.
Wow.
So it went on to be a commercial in for the Ford people in
Right.
England, and then Oliver Stoney heard it for U-Turn, and also the people from Seven, they heard it.
Right, right.
Yeah, and now it's coming out in another movie called Black Thunder.
Really?
Yes.
Well, right on. I hope they take care of you with a nice little piece.
Well, well, we haven't touched on that. That's a whole different story.
Yeah.
I really truthfully can't say whether I know a few artists who have had to fight for their rights and for what they earned.
Right.
I am one of them. I have been fighting, I think, since the 60s to get what was due me. You know, I'm only asking for what
What you deserve.
what I deserve,
Right.
what I've earned. And I can truthfully say it's just now in 2005 that I am truthfully seeing some results. And I had to go public before that happened.
Right.
I had to go to the Daily News, I had to go on television,
Yeah.
and just state my story because I owed everybody. You know,
Yeah.
I was in dire straits and I had to, you know, do something. And it
Yeah.
wasn't until, this is 2005, it was in 2004 that this happened.
Yeah.
And I've been seeing better results since
Good.
then.
It's always a shame that people have to go. That's right.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's always a drag that people have to go to those lengths to get some results. Because I mean, you know, you would think as self-righteous as so many people in the music industry can be, they would just give you what you're supposed to have.
Right.
And then you know they won't give you anything until you go and
Well, you hate to do that to the public because they support you.
right.
I mean, without people buying your records and liking your music or interested in the next thing that you're going to do, which I never thought could happen to me, but it did.
Yeah.
And I was told by some very wise people, they said, you need to go public because I had been suffering with this since the 60s.
Right.
You know, I had never been paid for June night. I'd never been paid for any of the hits
Wow.
that came out on me. So last year when I found myself homeless, not really homeless, but I had to go to a motel. I had to get out of where I was because I owed. And I thought about it. I said, well, I got to tell the people. You know, I've got to tell them
Yeah.
because they're buying my music. They've been buying it down through the years, and they need to know this.
Yeah.
They need to know this. The same thing happened with Ruth Brown. You know, of course, we all know
Sure,
that.
sure.
And this woman made Atlantic Records.
Yes, she
made
did.
them. She
Yes,
made
she
them.
did.
There would be no Atlantic Records if it wasn't for her. And Ruth has been going through a lot of changes, you know,
Right.
trying to get her money.
Yeah. Well, if you don't mind my saying, I think you came out of it smelling and looking like roses.
Well, thank you very much.
Amen.
Thank
So if you wouldn't mind, to back up a little bit now, after Mercury, I guess we're getting into the 70s now. What was going on at that time?
Well, the 70s, you know, they had a different hook on music.
Right.
They had a lot of music acts in nightclubs. I said to my musicians one day, we were in Chicago, I said, you know, you guys need to wake up. You need to find out what's going on with this music thing, because after a while, they're not going to need you.
Yeah.
And that really happened.
Yeah.
I wasn't about to change my heart as far as music is concerned. And in the 70s, you know, disco was out. And
Sure.
if you weren't a disco person, then you couldn't.
Just,
So what I did is I went on hiatus for a while. And I said God gave me a brain. He gave me both sides of it. So I went to work for Bank of America.
really?
Yes.
Wow. Now, surely, I mean, there had been some times when someone recognized you or knew who you were.
Yeah, when they did, I quit.
Really? Why is that?
I was there, I think, about 5 years
Really?
before they discovered that, because I didn't use my name, of course. I used my middle name.
Yeah.
And when they discovered, see, sometimes, you know, you have days, everybody knows about 9 to 5. You have days that so I would sneak off and sing. I'd go to Chicago, go to Detroit, come to
Really?
New York, that's right,
Yeah.
and go back. But I got busted, you know, sort of. Yeah, by my supervisor. She said her supervisor kept telling her, she said, I know that woman. She said, I know her. She says, she's very familiar. And come to find out she had all of my albums. So it was a lot more comfortable for me when they didn't know exactly who I was.
Yeah.
When they found out who I was, it was uncomfortable. So I went back to doing temporary work.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Which is how I got the job in the first place.
Right.
I went there as a temp, and the girl never came back, and I took the job.
Yeah. So it was at that time. Did you decide at some point maybe you wanted to go back to touring full time, or getting a band together? I mean, since you had been busted and they knew who you were, and since you were sneaking anyway to go make a few gigs here and
Yes,
there,
I was.
did that ever cross your mind to put a band together and go back out full time?
Not right then.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, I continued to do temporary work until I came back home. This was in California.
Ah, okay. And you came back home when?
In '86.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know they welcomed you with open arms too.
Well,
right?
yeah, and I got a contract with another company called Muse at that time.
Sure.
It's
Joe
now High
Fields.
Note, yeah. And that started me back, singing and doing jobs.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. Loren, do you have anything you wanna?
He's been mighty quiet, huh?
I'm known for that. Well, yes, there are some questions that I'd like to ask. I'd like to kind of change the focus just for a moment. And, we're building a jazz museum in Harlem, and that's what the root cause is. I'd like to acknowledge in the audience also the co-producer of the series here, Mr. Greg Thomas. And these are being recorded just for our archives as a historical document. And I was wondering, you mentioned that you were born in Harlem Hospital.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, for folks who'll be watching these interviews, if you could paint a picture of the Harlem that you were born into, and what it was like, and where you were raised, and what you experienced as a child, and how it's different or the same than it is now, and what was that world like, the world that you grew up in that most of us didn't see?
Okay, I was talking with a lady here, and she was telling me that when she was growing up, we used to sleep on the roof, play on the fire escapes. Also, we would sleep on the fire escapes with no problem. That's the Harlem I grew up in. It was quiet, rowdy on Fridays and Saturdays. People would party from Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I mean, actually drink from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday would get up straight as a board and go to work. Yes.
Where were you raised? What street? What neighborhood in Harlem?
134th Street between 7th and 8th. In a brownstone.
What was the difference between, at that time, 125th, 135th, 145th? Because I think a lot of people don't understand the difference in the neighborhoods at that time, and who lived where, and who shopped where, and all those kind of things. I wonder if you could paint a picture of...
Well, 125th Street basically was just about the same. It was always a shopping place where we go. The movies was there, the Alhambra Theater was there, the Apollo, of course the Lafayette Theater was there. And this is where people used to come on Saturdays to do their shopping. I know we used to go on 125th Street. Now 135th Street is a wider street. I mean, you're talking about the wide streets. I guess that's why you mentioned them. 145th Street is wide, 135th Street, that's a wide street. 125th Street is a wide street. I don't know all these vibes.
Yeah, right.
I can't imagine. But I can't remember too much going on at 145th Street or 135th Street. But 125th Street had Bloomstein's, a lot of stores and a lot of activities, record stores and things like that, especially the Apollo. They had the Apollo. So I would say it's about basically the same, except more today.
Yeah.
You mentioned appearing as part of the talent show at the Apollo. What were your first experiences actually just attending shows, and who were some of the first singers that you heard sing, and who were some of the people that you looked up to and things that you still remember now?
Well, the first thing I ever saw at the Apollo was my mom took me to see Billie Holiday. I saw Dinah Washington there. Duke Ellington's band, I saw him there. This is as a kid, growing up. So many people. In those days, used to have a lot of comics that come in. They would have a comedian, they would have a dancer, which is a different format today. They don't really use that like they did then. And big bands. Right. The Apollo had a big band all the time. So I could say that's the difference than from then and now.
Do you mind if I ask your opinion on something? I've always, spoken to a lot of musicians who were around Harlem at that time, and I've always got the sense that particularly the Harlem community in general, be it music, sports, business, whatever it was, they were all together. I mean, I always hear a lot of musicians, like for example, great Ray Brown bassist, was very close with Don Newcomb. And I always like to hear musicians tell stories about comedians. Like you said, they always had comedians and dancers and big bands. And I just have this feeling that today, I just don't get the feeling you would ever see, like, Chris Rock hanging out at Lennox Lounge, checking out, whoever. I just don't feel that sense of the community having that bleed together, like athletes and things like that. Did you get a sense that you could see anyone at any time?
Yes.
Why do you think that's
the Harlem that I grew up in? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
At what point do you think that did you see that start to change? As time went along, and if so, why do you think that happened?
I really don't know the reason why it happened, but I do know that when I came back in 1986, I hardly knew Harlem.
Yeah.
The difference was like day and night. I remember when Joe Louis used to walk the streets of Harlem.
Right.
Red Fox used to play the Apollo Theater and go all over Harlem. If there was any place to go, he would go. So there is a difference. There's a different degree of thought as far as the musicians today or the comedians today.
Do you ever think we can get back to that?
It would be nice.
Yeah.
But I doubt it.
I've heard a lot about from the musicians who worked at the Apollo about the audiences at the Apollo, and that sitting in the audience at the Apollo watching an act was a totally different experience for the people on the stage and the people off the stage than especially working downtown. And I was wondering if you could tell us about what it was like to perform at the Apollo, and what it was like to be in the audience of the Apollo, especially if they didn't like the act. And maybe about Puerto Rico or someone like that. Maybe.
Well, Puerto Rico was there when I performed as far as an amateur.
Yeah.
And he was a very jovial man, and he teased you a lot. He said, "I'm going to get you." I had on a little red dress, and I think that red dress just attracted him to me. He says, "I'm going to get you." I said, "No, you're not." I said, "You're just not going." I was scared to death. It turns out he didn't get me, but
you got him.
But I gotta say this: the Apollo audience, I think, has and always will be one of the toughest audiences in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, even till today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're not easy. They know what they want. They're very intelligent. I mean, they know if you're singing on key or off key, and you just can't, you just can't bulk on them. You just can't do that.
Right. Now, when you came back home in 1986, and you started working with Muse and Joe Fields, how did that? Was it refreshing to
The
kind
worst
of be
experience I ever had in my life.
Uh-oh. Please.
Yes.
Can we hear if you don't?
Well, it's not a good story. It's just one of those. Let me just say this: it's a record company story.
Right.
And it isn't a good one.
For I think certainly Loren and myself, when I first moved to New York City, I used to do some dates for Joe Fields before Muse shut down, and I probably shouldn't say this on camera, but whatever, we're all family.
Right.
Muse Records, of course, Joe Fields used to run, and the musicians used to call it Muse Records, because it was amusing the way he would treat the musicians and the money he would pay us. Even in the early '90s, he paid guys, $400 or $500 for a session, and then wound up selling the catalog,
Of course.
for about $7-8 million.
Well, my first album for him was called A Time for Love. I hadn't recorded in umpteen. I think I don't know how long. It was a long time. And so when it came out, it hit the charts.
Right.
So it was climbing, and then one day, I looked, and the spot that I had, Anita Baker had this spot. So I just called him. I said, why? When my record was climbing, you know, what happened? You know what he told me? He said, you have an ego.
What?
So this stunned me. I said, it's not about ego. Then I just came out and told him, I said, if you don't have an ego, then you're dead.
Right.
Everybody has an ego. So it's just a matter of how you use it.
Right.
But you gotta have an ego if you wouldn't be breathing. And this is what he told me when I balked at the fact that my album wasn't climbing and he wasn't doing anything to push it because it hit the charts by itself.
And he blamed it on your ego.
Yes, he said that's ego talking.
How many albums did you wind up doing with Joe?
I was supposed to do 3. I ended up doing 3 for him.
Yeah.
I was scheduled to do maybe 5.
Yeah.
So he didn't get the last 2. Yeah.
Please, go ahead.
I'd like to just ratchet it back for a moment, just one more time, back to the Harlem that you grew up in. And curious, one great singer's opinion and take on some of the other great singers. And you mentioned that your mom took you to see Dinah, took you to see Billie Holiday. And for all of those of us in the audience, I look around and there's a fair number, I think there's a fair number of people here who did hear them. And there's also quite a fair number of people who didn't, and know them from records and know them from history books or whatever. And I'm wondering if we could get Gloria Lynne's take on what made Billie Holiday Billie Holiday. What was it like hearing her in person? What was it like hearing Sarah? What was it like hearing Dinah that helped you find your own, eventually your own style?
As far as Billie is concerned, I love her today, but when I first heard her, I could not understand where she was coming from. I don't think I was mature enough in my music or either in my life. It was later years that I really understood where she was coming from. Dinah was a lot easier because Dinah was just a fabulous blues singer. Plus the fact that when Dinah couldn't make a job, she would call me.
Right on.
Yeah, she would send me, and that was quite an honor.
I just have to say something. Can you folks imagine for a moment having to face an audience that comes in that they're thinking to hear Dinah Washington, and you've been sent to substitute, and so clearly doing it so well that they called you back time and time again. For those that don't perform, I don't think you can even begin to imagine what kind of courage that must take.
Yeah.
I mean, that's...
Well, Joe Glazer sent me out when...
Joe Glazer?
Yeah, Joe Glazer sent me to California when Billie Holiday was sick in the hospital to replace her.
Wow.
And this was a fiasco. It really was.
Tell the story.
The man went off. He said, where is Billie Holiday? She's ill. And her agency sent me to replace. He said, who are you? He didn't know me, you know. I said, Mr. Glazer told me if you had any problem with this, to call him. Well, that man stood there and he argued for about an hour. Then he finally called Joe Glazer. And Joe Glazer said, I sent you the finest singer that I could send you. He said, Billie Holiday's in the hospital and just try her. Well, that night when I came out, you had people like Ava Gardner there. And you had people like, just looked like half of Hollywood was there. Yeah. Because they were all into Billie Holiday. And so I came out and I opened up my mouth and I went on and I sang. And at the end of it, they gave me a standing ovation. So I was a nervous wreck. I think I had to come home and my mom had to just I went crazy because to fill Billie Holiday's shoes, that was not easy. But she was enormously big, famous.
Sure.
You know, not in this country, other countries. Everybody knew Billie Holiday.
Well, you mentioned another name just in passing and telling that story, someone who had a very long association with Louis Armstrong, and of course one of the, a man whose name is big in the management field, and that's the legendary Joe Glazer.
Yes.
And you hear this about Joe Glazer, and you hear this about Joe Glazer, and you hear this about Joe Glazer, and you hear this about Joe Glazer. You knew the man.
Very well.
Could you paint a portrait of him?
Regardless of the picture that a lot of people paint about Joe Glazer took care of his artists. I got with his agency through Dinah Washington. He was always nice to me, and nice to all the artists that he had. Beyond that, that's all I know. That's the
Yeah.
Joe Glazer that I know.
Were you paid, did you get what you were
He
supposed
saw
to get
to it
from
that
him?
you got your money.
Now, you obviously were, how did you get to meet Diana Washington?
Um, I was appearing, where was I appearing? I think at, it might have been the Baby Grand or someplace like that. And those days, you know, we used to all run around to different clubs. Everybody went to see everybody.
Right.
And she came to see me, and she liked me.
Yeah. Wow.
What was it like? I'm curious, when people go to hear concerts and they see a singer sing for 45 minutes or 30 minutes, and they may have no idea of all the years that you spent in club after club and night after night and set after set and all that kind of stuff. What was a typical night if you were working at the Baby Grand? What time did you start? What time did you finish? How many sets did you do? How did you structure your shows? Was it just tune after tune, or did you talk in between the tunes, or was it more just singing with a pianist? How was it all structured?
Those days we did 3 shows a night. That's all over the world. There was a 3-show-a-night thing. I gotta say, when I first started, even when I became an artist that was known for records, I didn't talk much. You know, I would just sing, and say, this is so-and-so on bass and so-and-so, and thank you very much, and get off stage. You know, that was just me. And it wasn't until many, many years ago, I was working for Ashford and Simpson at a club called 2020. They used to have this club.
Yeah.
And they came backstage and they said to me, Gloria, you must talk more. You sing, you sing good, but you must talk more. And from that day to this, when I started talking to my audience and, you know, enfolding them, because the people were enfolding me, but I was cold. You know, that's the way I look at it now. To be warm and friendly, there's nothing wrong with that. Not that I wasn't, it's just that I didn't think I should do that with my audience.
I saw the outcome of that, was it a few weeks ago, Wilhelmine and I were at this affair at the Alhambra where they were saluting Percy Sutton and Charlie Rangel. And, you know, they had band and they had somebody playing, they had some music, and this was going on, and then all of a sudden, this like huge shift in vibration happened in the room, and they announced that you were coming out to sing. And there was this like outpouring, we actually felt it, sitting there, this outpouring of love, and then when you started to sing the song, the place just went berserk. But what I said to myself is, having played music myself in my life, it's very rare that you feel that change of emotion from an audience. Somebody comes out to sing a song and thank you very much, but clearly you've established some magic. And
That's what I call it, magic.
Yeah.
I was,
magic.
I was wondering if I could just toss a couple more names by, just people who don't get mentioned much anymore. Someone like Ethel Waters, who's probably before your time, I
Yes.
take it.
Well,
Or maybe not. Maybe when you were a child, she was.
yeah.
What you know, when they talk about the great singers, so many times it's Billy and Dinah and you and all the people that people talk about. And I think sometimes people like Ethel Waters and her career, they're almost forgotten about. What did she represent?
You know, mention her.
Right.
And Apple Waters, like you said. There's a few more. Let me see. Yeah, Ella.
Ella.
Fitzgerald. Well, Ella.
She's known.
Well, she's the queen.
We all know her
Yeah,
story,
the queen.
right?
Yeah.
Well, these are figures who were a little bit broader than just singers. In other words, someone like Ethel acted also.
But you gotta
And was a
remember,
pioneer.
you gotta remember that these group of singers who were fine, fine ladies, I mentioned them in my book, you know, very sincerely. They really never got the niche that they were supposed to get. You know, it bothers me because I'm still here. You know, they just didn't get what they should have gotten. You take Sarah Vaughan, the greatest voice I've ever heard.
Now, like Loren said, if you don't mind, I'm going to throw a couple of names at you.
Okay.
And you just tell me what you think about those. Like, Ella is a person we never really brought up. I know you love her dearly,
Dearly.
as we all do.
Dearly.
What were some of your early impressions the first time you heard Ella sing?
Well, I traveled with Ella.
Yeah.
You know, I was with a group called the Deltones.
Right.
And we toured with her.
Wow.
Yes.
What was it like?
And she used to tell me all the time, she says, you have the makings to be a solo artist.
Yeah.
You know? And coming from her, that just, you know, was just
Yeah.
just
Now,
a wonderful thing to hear.
Was she still married to Ray Brown at that time?
Yes, she was.
What were the Deltones? I'm curious about that. What?
That was a group that I was with.
What kind of group was it?
We did Close Harmony.
I see.
Yeah.
All women or
we were
women
way
and men?
ahead of our time, you know.
Women and men, or just
No,
women?
just women. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And we were really ahead of our time.
How many women?
4.
Mm-hmm.
And they were all from Harlem.
Every one of us.
Wow.
Did that band make any records with the Deltones?
No, we never recorded. We did let me see. We went on. Did we do the Apollo? We did the Apollo with Lucky Millender.
Lucky
Mhm.
Lucky Millender's band. That's our old name. And we toured. We toured with Ella Fitzgerald. But we never recorded.
Wow.
I've heard wild things about Lucky Millender as a band leader, how he used to jump around and dance around, and how he could inspire a band to play. And again, for folks who don't know anything about Lucky Millender, could you paint just a little portrait of what he was all about?
Very nice man, but he could be arguing backstage. I mean, calling people a bunch of them. Y'all know that. And when they say, ladies and gentlemen, now Lucky Millender, he'd come out like butter.
Yeah, right.
Biggest smile in the world, but he'd just finished, almost want to knock somebody out. You know, beautiful personality, and we travel with him quite a spell.
Wow. Now I'll throw another name out at you. What are your impressions of someone else we miss dearly, Betty Carter?
Oh, I liked her.
Yeah.
Betty to me was like an instrument.
Yeah.
I mean, her vocal presence and how she used her voice was like almost like a horn.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Now, did Dinah Washington have some influence in you going over to Mercury?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably guess.
Yes.
Now, and did you get to work with Quincy Jones before you were at Mercury, or was that once
Quincy,
you got there?
I told you he helped Melvin Liston with my
Right.
first string.
Oh,
band.
right.
And you know the liner notes that he used to put on the albums.
Sure.
They put everybody's name on there but his.
Mm.
You know, not good.
Yeah.
Not good for me. He couldn't stand me. He blamed me.
Quincy.
Yeah, he blamed me.
Really?
Because they didn't mention his name. And Quincy was very incidental in getting me that album. That was one of my biggest albums.
Yeah.
With Everest, yes.
I'm sure you've seen him since then.
I put it in my book. I haven't seen him to tell him, but I wrote it in my book.
Ah, okay.
I think this book took about 30 years off of me because there's a lot of things I wanted to say to people that I had not been able to say it to.
Yeah.
So I wrote it in the book.
How can we find the book? Where is it?
Oh, it's in the second edition now. It's called I Wish You Love.
Right on.
He has one. Yeah.
Right on.
It's for sale at the Schoenberg, you're saying? The Schoenberg has it? And maybe Hugh Man has it? And Hugh Man has it?
Yeah.
With Ms. Lynne. Please raise your hand and we'll hand you the microphone.
Questions, comments, and keep it short.
Yes.
To be frank, sometimes I go
I
on.
was wondering, you said you performed with the Deltones. And,
Yes.
I wondered, who did the arrangements, or did you just sing and establish your own harmony for those
We
things?
did. We did our own
Okay,
harmony.
that's what I was
Yes.
wondering. Okay, thank you.
More over here. Questions, comments, folks? Anyone? This side?
There you go.
I'm just wondering, as a singer, what do you think are the most important ingredients that go into putting over a song, aside from having the voice? What would you say goes into the delivery of a song as a singer?
Well, I always say you have to like it. And if you like the song, I think you can get more out of it. If you truly like it. Now, I've done a lot of songs that people have written, and I had to learn them. I mean, I had to really study them and get my groove going on them. But sincerely, if you like a song, then you'll tear it apart. You'll try to find you in it. You'll try to do something, but you have to like it, because the interest won't come. So most of the songs I say, let me knock on wood, that I really like. I really like
Do
the
you
songs that I.
Do you personalize your songs?
Yes, I do. I have to find me. A part of me has to be there in it.
Next question.
I may have missed this coming in a little late, so I apologize.
Mhm.
Did those hits and all those songs that you sing and really do make us all feel like we're in the moment with you, did you choose those songs or were they brought to you? Did you have to do them or were those songs that you chose?
Well, when I first started with Everest, they were an independent company. So they left me on my own. I would bring in 12 songs that I liked, and they would do the arrangements on them. So I gotta say, I handpicked most of them. So I would pick the prettiest songs in the world to sing. You know, the ones I wanted to do that I could taste. You know. Yes. So most of them I handpicked. Yes. They're like flowers, you know.
For the record, could she
Yeah.
identify herself for the record?
Yeah, please identify yourself.
My name is Melissa Walker, and I'm a singer,
Yes.
and I've listened to you many years, and yeah, I could just tell that those songs are just, you know, they're sung so beautifully. So what I'm struck by is that you know yourself as this, you know who you are as a singer, and I think that's hard. That doesn't come easily
No, it doesn't.
always, and so
No,
to
it
be able to
doesn't.
know yourself and therefore pick a song and then have a hit out of it, it's just incredible.
It is. It really is. Phenomenal.
I guess I should mention that this is the future Mrs. Christian McBride. They're getting married this summer. I just told the world. I don't think I should have said it.
Thank you, Loren.
And I have to say, because she can't say, Moses is a wonderful singer herself.
That's right.
And I'm happy to see.
See, I can't say those things because it looks like nepotism if I do that.
Can I wish you all the success in the world? Yes.
And love too.
And feel your music.
Yeah, I wish
Ah.
you better.
Feel your
There's a
music.
question in the.
I have a question.
Here you go.
My name is Hugh Stroud, and I'd like to know if you...
Start again, as long as you have the mic.
I'm
Yeah.
Hugh Stroud. I just want to know if you wrote any of your songs? Did you write anything
You're quite a
personally?
few.
You
Quite a
did?
few, yeah.
What were they?
Okay, well, you know, Herbie and I did Watermelon Man together. You know that. I did the lyric on Watermelon Man.
What?
Listen,
Yeah.
my goodness, there's a song called Humming Blues. It was very successful for me. I wrote that. Record Company Blues, I wrote that. Yeah. Led Me Yesterday. Love is Blind. I'm confused here. But yes, I have written quite a few. Yes.
Right on.
More questions?
There you go.
Okay, my name is Melvina Johnson. Miss Lynne, I wish you love. What, there must be a story in back of it, right? It is such a deep song. Could you tell me a little about it? Or how it came about?
I'd be glad to. I flew to California to do my biggest string date in the world. I mean, for me at that time, it was 40 in personnel. I knew this before I got out to California. When I arrived there, Marty Page asked me, did I know a song called I Wish You Love, which I didn't know it. Keely Smith had recorded it 10 years prior to me recording it. He said, well, take this home, take it to the hotel, learn it, and bring it back tomorrow. And that's what I did. So I really wasn't that familiar with that song. I thought something else that I had been studying, been, grooving with, might have stepped out of that album, but I Wish You Love stepped out, and I really wasn't that familiar with it. So that's the story on that. I mean, see, miracles happen. They do. To me, that was a stone miracle because I really didn't know it that well. I only had a night to learn it.
Yeah, well, you sure learned it.
Here we go.
Hi, my name is Edwina Handy DaCosta. I've
Yes.
already introduced
Yes.
myself to you. Earlier, one of the interviewers mentioned that Ella Fitzgerald and Ethel Waters didn't get their just due. And we see that in music history today. with like W.C. Handy or Hugh B. Blake and James B. Johnson being precursor in Harlem, in American music to like Duke Ellington.
Yes.
I wanted to make that statement and then let you add to your impression or knowledge of W.C. Handy. But I'm so confused understanding that great-grandfather came here with a music publishing company, that we're celebrating its 92nd year. And I know Ruth Brown and so many of these musicians that didn't understand the business of the music by the 50s and the 60s. So those two questions, the precursor to the musicians of Harlem that we know today, and they were the musicians that owned their music. So it helped me with that one.
Well, that's really one of the reasons I'm here tonight, because when I heard the letters Jazz Museum, that hit me. Hit me right at home. There are so many musicians that really need credit, and I wish you guys would get a list from me. I got a lot of people who you could get, you can get their input on about jazz.
We're ready for that.
Well, I think you need it too, But to answer her question, that's one reason I'm here, because I wanted to know about a jazz museum, even though I've been in jazz most of my life. Everything I've done songs that, like I sang from Bach to Beethoven, they still call it jazz. So I might as well rest with that and try to try to fight the good fight. I can't tell you why these musicians haven't been paid or haven't been given their just due, but in my book, I have crowded names on top of names. Every musician that I ever had a breath with, I tried to put in my book for that same reason, so that they could be recognized. Now, this jazz museum is a wonderful thing because it will educate our kids to jazz. Kids will walk along, they say, oh, there's a museum there, hey, they'll come in. They'll come in, they're curious to find out about it. We need this desperately, because we need to educate the kids. Not that I'm knocking their music today, but music is not that one-sided, it's not that cramped. I mean, it's a whole, music is universal, so that these kids they just have a chance to learn. I mean, they can turn it down, they can say, no, I don't like it, but first let them hear it.
Right, that's right.
We have your tea, by the way.
Thank you, Grandma. It's got honey in it?
Here you go, right here.
You already know who I am. Yes. This is Dr. Marie Saunders, ladies and gentlemen.
I don't remember the year, and that's the question that I'm asking. When you were singing upstairs at Bowman's and Kenny Burrell was singing there.
At Brankers.
Brankers,
yeah.
When was that? I forgot.
Okay, I was sneaking out of the house to do that. Marita had to be about 57, 56.
Because I know it was around that time, as I was on the switchboard, and you were one of my customers, and that's how we met. And that's how long we've known.
And this is before you got your degree?
That's right.
Yeah. I've known this woman before she got her degree. She's a doctor.
Right on.
Yeah. She struggled hard for it. She's another soul sister.
Right on.
Yeah. Another soul sister. You're welcome. You deserve it.
I wanted to, first of all, thank this gentleman right here, please raise your hand, for bringing, for Ms. Lynne to sign, this album cover, which I'd like to show everyone. The title of the album was Intimate Moments. Okay, for everyone to see. And ironically, on the back of this album cover, it says, the title tune, Intimate Moments, was written for Ms. Lynne and her first Fontana album. Fontana was a division of Mercury, by Van McCoy, a young composer whose praises have been sung by so sage a man about music as band leader, arranger Quincy Jones. So there was an association, but it still wasn't mentioned in association with you. I mean, with you directly. So hopefully Quincy did see the mention of him in your book.
Oh, we've spoken since then. I mean, but it's it's just a hard thing. It was a hard pill for me to swallow, but the liner notes were done then, Yeah. So
okay. Well, I wanted to mention to everyone, and also for the record, that Ms. Lynne was one of 30 honorees in an exhibit called Harlem Is, done by the organization
Yes.
Community Works, and I think a lot of people,
And the Harlem Arts Alliance.
and Community Works.
Well, I think I was telling you that's the first time I didn't mind how old I am. Yeah, because you had to be what? You had to be
50
over.
was the minimum.
Yeah, 50 was the minimum. So if you wasn't over 50 or over, you couldn't get into that. Yeah. And that's in the museum. That's in the Schoenberg Museum.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's actually touring the city. And I just want to say that I'm proud to have you here, and I'm so happy to see the turnout of everyone.
Isn't it wonderful?
It sure
Wonderful.
is. It sure is. Any other
Take
questions?
over there.
Okay.
I can speak now. My name is Luther Gales. I like to know
Yes,
your...
Mr. Gales, I know you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Gales, you're that dancer, aren't you?
I tried.
Yeah, don't try.
Yes, he does a
Don't
good
try.
job.
Yes, he does.
Yes,
Yes, he does.
My
And there's a
question,
lady there.
could you tell us about what your take of the music today that's basically going across the airways, and in particular the female singers of today?
Okay, which ones do you want to know about?
What's your take on the music that's being played on the airways that we're listening to? You said before you didn't want to speak on today's music, you don't want to talk about the kids' music, but I would like for you to speak on today's music, if you don't mind.
Well, I like it because the kids, this is for the kids, okay? The only thing I have against it is that they're not letting these kids hear or be exposed to enough of it, to enough music. Music just doesn't stop and end in one thing. As I said, it's universal, and these kids should have a chance to hear other music. So they can say, well, I like that or I don't like that. Right now, all they like is what they like. And they don't know about anything else. Or they're not being exposed to anything else. I mean, if parents don't do it in their homes, I've had a lot of young kids come to me, and, they call me, they say, you tight. They say, and I said, well, what do you mean? They say, well, we dig you because, my grandmother plays your music. So we need more of that. We need more kids coming up saying that you're tight, and so that they know, at least they get a chance to hear somebody, and then I don't care if they say they don't like me. I would rather that than not them hear it at all.
That's so important.
So it's kind of hard for me to pass an opinion. I have said, I've listened to the singers on the air. Now, when I was coming along and I had singers to listen to, each one of them had a definition. I mean, you could tell when Karma was on, you could tell when Sarah was on, you could tell whether that was Ella, you could tell whether that was Sarah. You can tell today when it's Nancy, you can tell today when it's me. I don't hear that so much in music today. I don't. There's a few. I like this little girl. What's her name? Toni Braxton. I think she has a definition, and I think she has the ability to be here a long time. I also think this child who is blown up all over the world, Alicia Keys. I think she has the ability to be here a long time. Even Beyonce, I like her. When she finished wiggling and carrying on, she can still sing. She can still sing. She's got pipes. She's got pipes. So any day that she wants to stop wiggling and carrying on, she can still sing. So to name a few, I think these kids have the ability to be here, longevity and
Well, I'm glad you said the individuality.
yes.
Because I can't
Well,
hear
these are the ones that I'm talking about are the ones that are individual. You know that's them. Because I listen to BET and I'm up on the hip. I want to know what they're doing. I want to know what kind of music comes through here because some might come through that I might not know or something.
I think my man over there had a question.
Yeah, I'm Frank Porowski. I'm a little older than you, I think.
Oh, you do? You think so?
But I was just getting out of school in '58, and that's when you were starting
Yes, right.
to play all the clubs.
Mhm.
And I'd like to hear about some of the other clubs that you played. I know a friend of mine, Bobby Thomas. I think he worked with you, a drummer,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe Rowan Hanna. Tom McIntosh, I told him that you were going to be here. He remembers you. He was in the band at Apollo one time, I think. He became a fine arranger, composer. But biggest fans. I think Gloria Lynne is the greatest singer.
Yes, she is.
Great. I think you so much. Thank you. Thank you very much. But I remember some of those clubs. I used to go jam at the Count Basie's Lounge. And I don't. Did you play?
He's a fine tenor saxophone player, ladies and gentlemen. Frank Porowski's made many records over the years, and the father of a fine drummer too. Well, here we go.
Ah, here she go.
Here she is.
Hello, family. Welcome.
Soul sister number one.
You gotta have that. You know that.
Swing
Swingers in the house. I love you. Oh my God, look at all these fantastic people. Oh my God, I love every minute of this.
You can dance.
You know what? But if it was not for you, Miss Lynne, we would be in a very sorry state. I am so honored to be here with you today.
Thank you.
I've had the opportunity to share a stage with you and a television program.
Twice, I think. Right?
Exactly
Yes.
right. Exactly
Yes.
right. So family, listen, pay attention when she's speaking. These are the things that we need to do for ourselves, because no one is going to come up and step up to the plate unless we do it. So in the honor that we're going to present to Mr. Loren Schoenberg, the one and only Miss Gloria Lynne, please keep the music alive.
Yes, we have to.
We have an initiative that's going to unfold at the Louis Armstrong House very shortly. You will all be able to come along and do your thing, and ain't nothing but some swing. So please pay attention when you hear Mr. Schoenberg speak. We will have things to go out to you, let you know what's going on. We got to keep it alive. Swing is the thing. Peace and blessing, my sister. I love you.
I love you too.
I love you.
Never get me up there with no kisses on them.
Dancing now. Yes, we have to have that. Thank you, my love. If it wasn't for this man, we'd be home watching reality TV. Sucks. This is reality here.
I have a question, just to follow up on that last one. I don't know if it's controversial or down or I don't know what it is, but I'd like to ask your opinion. We're talking about the music of today, and then we're talking about these people that you've focused on who actually do have individuality. But I'll tell you something that really disturbs me, and that I'm not quite sure what the answer is, and I'm curious from your perspective, which is in a lot of the music of today, and not just rap music, and of course rap and hip hop are things that have so many different styles and so many different things to it. You can't generalize and just say. But I see the depiction of women, I mean, in a way that I can't imagine that anybody would ever in a million years think that you would walk down the street and hear that kind of language and those kind of images and that kind of derogatoriness. And yet the world just seems to be walking by, and these children are growing up hearing people call these words, which I won't even use in your presence. How do you think that happened? How did we go from a world of I Wish You Love and Gershwin and Cole Porter and Duke Ellington to those words?
Shake your, you know what?
Well, no, but much worse than that. You can shake your booty, but I'm talking about.
No, that wasn't the word.
Oh, I should. I think I should be back in my place here. But all I'm saying is about. I think we all know what I'm talking about. The very derogatory thing towards women, and they're buying the records.
Okay, again, I have to say, these are kids. And we all know kids do till you stop them from doing it. Okay? So if these kids are allowed to do this, you know, what can we do? As far as the music industry, if you balk on it, they'll say you're trying to take something away from them, and you know we're not trying to do that. All we want is the kids to be more educated to the good things. You know, there are good things. I know they think that hip-hop is good. I think it's good too. But there's some gooder.
Right.
There's something else better. You know what I mean?
That they don't hear.
Yeah, that they might be able to incorporate with what they're doing.
Right.
Other than that, that's my only opinion on it. I'm really, really angry because these kids are not exposed to enough music. We'll just put it like that. There's so much more that they could be exposed to. Now the ones that are exposed to it, you hear it. You hear it in their talent. You hear it.
If you don't mind my throwing in a little 2 cents here, I think one of the greatest things about the Harlem Speaks is that we do get someone as legendary as a Gloria Lynne to come here and rap to us. But by the same token, what we're talking about, what's going on with hip hop and a lot of the images we see, I get the feeling that most of the time we're preaching to the choir. All of us in here, we know what's happening. So we leave it, to us and you guys to pass the word and bring some people who are not hip to what's going on here. If you know some kids, that's why I'm glad to see my little brother down here in the front. He's getting exposed to this stuff early. You know what I mean? So by the time he gets 16 years old, he's gonna know. He's gonna know better. He's gonna have the whole wide spectrum of everything going on. So please spread the word to the people you know who need to be here. And if they don't want to hear, you drag them up here. It's free. You know what I mean? It's free.
Choice.
That's right. Brother, here you go.
It's an honor to be in your presence, Ms. Lynne.
Thank
I'd
you
like
very
to, you're more than welcome. You're an icon in this community, and we thank you for your words, your lyrics, and your longevity. I grew up in a Harlem where my parents went to Small's Paradise in Minton. I'd like to hear more about your experience in those types of places, especially if you sang there and what happened during that time.
Well, I lived right around the corner from Small's Paradise. I never got a chance to sing there, but it was there, between 135th and 134th. Will Chamberlain at one time used to own it, and I didn't work for him there. Although he owned it, he sent me to California to work a room called East Coast or something like that. I was supposed to come back and work for Smalls, but I never did. But that era, I'm glad you brought that up, because that era brought so many tourists from other parts of Manhattan to Harlem. They come up to the Baby Grand, they come up to Small's Paradise, they come to the Apollo Theater. It was just a movement of tourists that come. Now, in later years, I heard you say Showman's. Yeah, that was later years, though. I think they still do. They still do, yeah. So that's a plus,
Anybody else?
I just have a quick follow-up question, because the audience is raising issues that I wish that we had thought of. In all the interviews that we've done here, including one with the owner of the Lenox Lounge, Alvin Reed was here, and all different kinds of people. And by the way, he's another hero, because he's holding out for a music policy when the business world and the money world is saying, why would you stay with jazz music? And he's like holding it out for jazz all this time. But when the name Small's Paradise came up, his eyes lit up. And I'd say more than any other club, when people start talking about those days and those clubs, there's something about Small's Paradise at its height that just had some appeal. I was wondering for those of us that were never in the place.
Well, it was comparative to the Cotton Club. Of course, I was a very little girl when the Cotton Club came along, when it was, going on. But Smalls was equal to that. Small's Paradise.
Can you describe it for me? Because I was never there.
Small's Paradise? I thought it was a beautiful room. Did anybody, yeah, it was pretty. There was also another room called Club Baron that was on there. Beautiful room. Beautiful room, yes. Beautiful room. Now, bringing that up, with what's in Harlem today, as far as presenting music, I hate to say it. Now, I was offered to go into the Lenox Lounge, I don't know how many times. I turned it down. I said to him, you cannot have a club and don't have facilities for dressing room facilities. I said, you may get some people that can come and hang on the bar all night and do some shows for you, but that's not where it's at. We have to be comfortable too. You might want to go off, and meditate. I do. In between shows, I like to go somewhere and thank the Lord that I had the power to do what I did. Now, I'm not particularly knocking anybody in Harlem, but if we are going to have music come to Harlem, I'm talking about performers, we have to do a little better. We have to do a little better. I've watched Preacher Robbins work, I think Showman's. Now, Showman's in the beginning was small enough. This one is smaller. I mean, it's just not conducive to spreading out. And if you get about 4 or 5 people, you can't get no more tourists in there. You know, that's ridiculous. So I'm just kind of taken back with where Harlem is as far as the music scene is concerned and what they're presenting in music. Not that they're presenting bad people, but I mean, it's just that it's not comfortable. It's not comfortable. And I tried to work Showman's when Showman was on 8th Avenue. No, I'm talking about the one, right. Yeah, he said to me, he said, you should come in here for me. I said, okay. I went in there, first of all, he put $20 on the door. Now, you know how the clubs are in Harlem. People go there on a regular basis, they don't pay nothing. Just go right on through the door. When I was there, he put $20 on the door. The people balked. They said, I'm a regular, I'm not going to pay to come in here.
Yeah, right.
So we had that to deal with. First of all, I had to ask him for transportation to go back and forth to my apartment, which was on 92nd Street at that time, to change my clothes between shows. You know, so I said, well, I have done what I can do, and I can't do anymore. So I don't work Harlem. But for one of that reason, because they're not ready for people to work Harlem.
I hear you. We have a question.
And the Apollo has gone completely hip-hop. So that leaves that out.
I just want to follow up just one more time. What was it that made Small's Paradise Small's Paradise? Because I'm still confounded by it, because everyone just loved that club. What was it that made it?
I think it was the bands and the music that went in there. I think so.
Always hear a lot of the musicians talk about Count Basie's club too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they used to go there. It was more like a jamming. Everybody'd meet and they would jam there. Which they still, I think the Cotton Club does that now. They have, on Mondays, they have big bands. And then they have a gospel program, you know.
Did you see the question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Lynn.
Good evening.
I want to ask you about your grandparents, the kind of music, because, I mean, did they come from the South? Did they come from the Caribbean? What was that kind of influence on you? Because your style, you know, I would think of it as a New York style as opposed to, let's say, a heavier blues style. You get my drift?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I never met my grandfather. My grandmother, I met her once when I was 5 years old. And if they probably had some influence, I guess, through genes, you know, through the power of genes. If they did, I didn't know it, because I didn't know them well. You know, I didn't know my grandparents. I met my grandmother once, and I never met my grandfather.
From the South?
Yeah, they were from Louisiana.
Maybe you want to come up a little bit.
Bring it around this way. Wait a minute, we'll get you.
Why don't you come
Oh, Michael's got a big voice. Just shout it out, Michael. This is Michael Fleming, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, that's Michael Fleming?
He plays bass for me whenever he gets the chance.
I played the Euro with him.
Not only that, he's a teacher of music, and he teaches jazz. He's one of the good people that's going to keep, you know, things rolling. Yeah, he's an educator, and I just love him.
Thank you very much, Gloria.
You're welcome.
I want to make a comment first, and then I have a question. Well, she already revealed that I played with her all over the country and various parts of the world. And one remarkable thing about Miss Lynne, I call her Gloria, she is one of the most poised people I've ever met. I mean,
she could be in a fight with the manager, or the conditions may not be right, but I have never, ever, ever seen her, I've never seen her lose her poise in terms of delivery of the song, in terms of rapport with the audience, never. And I think the reason for that is that magic. Somebody was asking, how do you get the magic? How do you get the magic? The magic is no magic at all, in my opinion. I think the magic is that she is who she is, and when she goes from Gloria Lynne, the person, to Gloria Lynne, the performer, there is no gap. And that creates a certain kind of magic and warmth and rapport with the audience. Now, I'd like to ask, since I've played with her quite a bit, there's a remarkable thing that is going on with her as we speak, and it has always gone on, is that, well, let me say this. Singers usually lose their voices as they go deeper into their careers, and what that causes them to do is to change their keys. They have to lower their keys. So what you hear on the recording is not what you're hearing when you hear them in person. The brilliance isn't there. Something is lost. But that's not the case with Gloria Lynne. Gloria Lynne still sings in the same key. The same key that she sang on all of her recordings, and to me that is truly remarkable.
I'm lucky, Michael.
Well, I'm going to ask
very
you,
lucky
I
person.
want to see if it's luck or if it's something you know. So for the younger singers who might like to know how you've done that. Yeah. What is it? What is it? You never took a drink, or you don't breathe the same air? What is it?
Well, we were talking one day, Michael, and we're off more than we're on. You know this. But when we get together, it's like magic, as far as music is concerned. Okay. Remember I told you I sing every day. A singer sings all the time, most of the time. If you're not doing it vocally or orally like that, it's on your mind. So a singer sings all the time.
So you're saying it's conditioned, it's because you stay close to your voice.
Yes.
And of course you don't abuse it.
No.
But you're saying just the fact that you're active all the time.
All the time.
And so you've never lost it because of that. Is that what
Yeah.
you're saying? Okay. Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you very much.
You're welcome.
We have a question over here from my friend.
Ms. Lynne, it's a gracious honor to be here, and everybody else. This is just it's a very wonderful experience as looking at everybody out of this way. I'm from West Africa, Liberia, and I had not kept up with music too formally or consistently. And when I bought music, when I had money, I bought more male music. But there's a very strange thing that happened. Your name just resonated in my whole consciousness so strongly. It really pulled me in here, and the question the man play around, it was kind of precursor to what I tried to go, as you know, and I came back. This is very strange. And what I really want to know, I'm trying to grow up too, that's a hard thing. What's your source of inspiration or strength? Because you became a professional singer or artist, as opposed to being a beautiful lady, just, or whatever. But I'm sure that it's a very competitive field, and
it is, yes.
Artists. So, what gave you the strength? What was your source of inspiration and confidence that, okay, this is what I want to do? If you didn't do it spontaneously, did you make a definite decision to be, or you just gravitated into that. And it's even which way you went, what's your, what gave you so much confidence? And the man said that too, you're so poised. So it's still tied in. What's the source of strength?
Thank you. Thank you.
I really think my source of strength comes from the fact that I did not really choose this business, it chose me.
Oh.
You know, and after it did, and I had a certain amount of success, I said, well, maybe that's my calling. So I went along with that. And just tried to strengthen it at you know, at every chance I got. I mean, through all kind of madness, all kind of conditions. This was my calling. I believe that I was gifted, and I was put here to do that. You know, what I wanted to really do was be in medicine. And so sometimes, you know, maybe music can heal. You know, it could be that. I really don't know. There's the motivation that I have today is the fact that I can sing a song and maybe you like it. You know, if one person likes it, that knocks me out. You don't have to be a whole lot of people. You know, because I was singing early in the early years and didn't nobody know me but my mama, you know. So, but after we worked Brankers and places like that, we used to pack it. You would have thought that we had records up, but we didn't. And we used to pack it. And we, you know, this every Friday and Saturday, this man was glad to have us there. Because we packed it just like Stars did. So that's motivation. I mean, that you know, spiritually that helps. It's a spiritual thing. So I think that's what gives me, you know, my strength to try to do this even today.
We have time for a few more questions. Thank you. Over here.
This is very short, and once again, I'm really pleased to be in your presence.
Thank you.
I enjoyed your book very much. I wondered the families that were very much a part of your extended family on 134th Street. Are you still in touch with some of them?
Well, the ones that are still here, yeah, we talk from time to time.
Yeah, I mean, and the music, your very first music teacher in the building.
Professor Loren Phillips, yes.
Yes. Did that family follow your career through as long as it could?
I would like to think that they did, but you know, they were from the islands, they were West Indians, and I think that they went back to the islands.
And the second music teacher that was at Carnegie
Yes,
Hall, was
Professor Robert Malone,
yes.
yes.
Was he another person who was able to follow you?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I always wondered about that, because when you talk about people so
I really
lovingly
should have made that a lot clearer in my book, you know, but
I wondered about it, because having read it and even read sections of your book to other people over the phone,
yes.
It came alive for me again.
Oh, wonderful.
And
wonderful.
so I'm really glad to be here.
Thank you very much.
I just want to say for the record, and for everyone here, that Lana Turner, in addition to being one of the top real estate agents in Harlem, she's the head of an organization that is about to celebrate its 25th anniversary, and it's called the Literary Society. It's a monthly book club that, so you can kind of tell by what you said, but I just wanted to let everyone know that.
Wonderful. Yes.
Lana Turner. One
Just
more.
Just real quick, Miss Lynn, do you ever
Yes.
burn out when you're doing 3 shows a night, however many nights?
Well, we don't do that anymore.
No,
you know,
but
that's,
did you have a time when?
That's in the past. You know, someone asked me for more than really some places one show, because if the length of time is involved. Actually, we're doing 3 in 1. You know, because I went to Atlanta, Georgia, and I forgot that I had not been there in 15 years. And of course, I was on stage for almost 2.5 hours. You know. So I won't make that mistake again. Yeah, that's more than 3. Yeah, that's more than 3. Yeah. So today it's different. I always prayed. I said, maybe sometime, Lord, I can get to the point where I'm big enough to say I want to do 1 show or 2 shows, and it has happened for me. You know. Not that I wouldn't do 3, but there'd be 3 short ones, you know. So you might as well combine them all in one and let the people enjoy.
I think that's it.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, folks, this has been an incredible evening, and you already said it, Ms. Lynn, but I'm glad you didn't become a doctor.
That's right. Or a banker.
Because I can't play a record of a doctor, but I can go home tonight and listen to your record.